Once upon a time, there was an old man called Chilbak Baba. Kilbuck lived in the village of Gura in Turkey, next to Mount Ida. He looked after cows, pigs, and geese, and he was well known and well liked throughout the village. But Kilbuck was foolish. Years before, a beautiful woman called Mukades had come to Gura, and Kilbuck fell in love with her straight away. They got married, and for a while after, she would disappear occasionally and come back without an explanation. When Kilbuck raised the issue with her, she announced that she was pregnant. Kilbuck, being a foolish man, thought that she had cheated on him and that the child was from another man. But he did not dare say this. One night, when Mukades had once again disappeared, he drank so much that he almost passed out. Another man of Gure ran into the bar and shook him, saying, "Kilbuck, your wife is giving birth. Come now." Kilbuck was so drunk and full of spite that he did not leave the bar, and kept drinking while the other villagers helped his wife give birth. If the baby belonged to another man, then why should he help her give birth? She did not survive the labor. Kilbuck was filled with grief, but it was softened when he saw his daughter. She was as beautiful as her mother, if not more, and as she grew up, she took on an enchanting smile and magnificent long blonde hair, like a field of wheat. When she bent over the well to fill a jug of water, it was as if the sun was raining down from the sky. Kilbuck decided to name her Sarikuz, which meant beautiful girl, because there was no other way to describe her. It was lucky that Sarikuz was so beautiful and charming, because the other villagers were furious at Kilbuck for abandoning his wife. One of the men revealed to him that Mukades had not been cheating on him. She was actually visiting a witch who lived on nearby Mount Ida, as she had had a vision that her pregnancy would fail and she wanted to make sure the child survived. Kilbuck wished to go and see the witch because he thought she might be able to forgive him for what he did to his wife. But the man informed him that she had died the same night as Sarikaz's birth. As Sarikaz grew older, Kilbuck's grief became unbearable. He lay awake at night, unable to sleep, thinking of all the things he should have said to her. One night he dreamt of Mukades. She came down from heaven, shining like a star, and said to him, "If you truly seek forgiveness, then serve God in my name." Kilbuck woke up knowing what he had to do. That day was Sarikaz's 15th birthday, and she was already capable of looking after the animals and herself. "Sarikaz, I am going on a pilgrimage to ask forgiveness from God. I do not know when I will be back. Look after the animals, and most importantly, be good. Do not let any man step inside this house." "But Father, why must you leave?" She looked just like her mother when she cried, and it broke Kilbuck's heart. "I am sorry. I must. I will think of you the whole way." Sarikaz eventually agreed and said farewell to her father. Kilbuck pilgrimaged for 3 years. His journey was full of difficulties, and when he finally arrived, he did not find the forgiveness he sought. Still, Sarikaz remained good, and she never let a man inside the house. All the men of the village lined up to ask her hand in marriage, but she rejected every single one. The men of Gur became furious. "The old man has surely died," they said. "His daughter would rather die a virgin than let us in. Or perhaps she no longer is one, and is too ashamed to admit it." They spread bitter lies around the village about Sarikaz, but Sarikis ignored them and looked after the animals. When Chilbak finally returned, exhausted from his journey, he headed straight for his home. But on the way, an old woman stopped him. "Your daughter has become wicked," she said. "Oh yes, she was good at first. But after you were gone for a year, she began to invite men up to Mount Ida in the night and slept with them. She has slept with all the young men in the village at least once. It's a wonder she hasn't fallen pregnant." Chilbak did not trust the words of an old gossip, so he asked around the village, and he quickly found out that the story was true. He was furious. His daughter had not brought the men into his house, but she had done something far worse. "I shall forbid her from ever leaving the house again," he said. "No," said one of the fathers of the village. "Her sins are far too great. We cannot have such women in Gura. Either you kill her, Chilbak, or we will do it for you." Chilbak was angry, but he could not hurt his own daughter. And from his pilgrimage, he knew that God would not want him to. As he walked home, he thought of a plan. "Sarikis! Father, what a joy it is to see you!" Sarikis cried. She jumped up and wrapped her arms around his neck, but he pushed her off. "You disobeyed me. How could you?" Sarikis looked hurt. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me. I have heard all about what you have done. Take one of the geese in the garden. If you like taking men up to Mount Ida so much, then do the same with the goose." Sarikis was shocked, but she obeyed her father as usual. She took the goose and they walked up Mount Ida. The path was rocky and dangerous, and it was getting dark, but still they walked and walked. Every now and then Sarikis asked, "How much more, father?" And Chilbak replied, "Just a little further." Finally, when the night was thick around them, Sarikis stopped and said, "Father, I'm scared. Can't we go home?" But Chilbak Baba had already gone, and Sarikis was alone in the mountains. That night, Chilbak had a dream. Once more Mukades descended from heaven, bright with heavenly light. She was as beautiful as before, but she was not smiling. "Mukades, my love, do you forgive me?" "Chilbak, you are a foolish old man. You treated our daughter like one of your pigs. Do you really believe the words of those bitter men over your own daughter?" Chilbak woke up crying, and he awoke crying every day after that, having dreamt of awful things happening to Sarikis in the mountains, thieves and landslides and monsters. "My beloved daughter, oh, my beloved daughter." When he walked through Gure, he did not dare look at Mount Ida, as it seemed to stare down at him, judging him as his wife had. One day, many years later, Chilbak invited a passing merchant to stay with him. He was lonely in his old age, and he often invited travelers in. The merchant told Chilbak an interesting story. On the way through Mount Ida, he had gotten lost, and in his moment of complete despair, when he thought he was going to die there, a woman with beautiful blonde hair appeared, followed by a goose. The woman dried his tears and showed him the way down from the mountain before disappearing. Chilbak was shocked. His daughter was alive. That night, for the last time, he dreamt of Mukades and told her that he planned on going to Mount Ida to find Sarikis. "Be careful, Chilbak," she warned him. You may find things out that you were better off not knowing. But Kulbak couldn't stop himself. He had to ask his daughter for forgiveness. The next day, he brought his animals to a neighbor and explained what he was doing. "Are you mad?" said the man. "What about the snow, the landslides, the steep cliffs?" But Kulbak simply shook his head and said, "I have to go." For many hours, Kulbak climbed Mount Ida until he was well and truly lost. Just as night was falling and he was beginning to feel a powerful hunger, a beam of light shone on the path before him. A woman appeared, with golden hair like a field of wheat and a goose beside her. Sarkis smiled and Kulbak felt his heart melt. "Father, what a joy it is to see you. I knew you were coming. I have prepared a warm bed and a bowl of soup for you. Come." Sarkis led Kulbak to a cabin in the mountains. He was so amazed that he could not speak. She fed him the soup and he fell fast asleep. In the morning, Kulbak asked for water to wash himself. He was dirty from the journey through the mountain. He would wash and then beg for Sarkis's forgiveness. "There is no water here, Father, but I will see what I can do." Sarkis left and returned a few minutes later with a jug of water. "Where did you get this water, my beloved daughter? It is too salty to wash with." Sarkis simply smiled. "I reached and lifted it from the ocean itself." Kulbak was amazed. It cannot be. To do such a thing, Kulbak thought back on Sarkis's life. It was true that her mother had come to him in dreams, and it was true that Sarkis's beauty had always been magical, that no man could resist it. And she had survived on Mount Ida, with only a goose to help her. "You are a saint. You have always been a saint, haven't you?" Sarkis smiled widely. "It is true. My secret has been revealed, and now, thanks to you, I shall join Mother in heaven." Sarkis exploded with light, and when Kulbak opened his eyes again, she was gone. "No, my daughter." He fell to the floor and wept. All he had wanted was to ask his daughter for forgiveness, and she had disappeared before he could. Kulbak left the mountain, taking the jug and the goose as memories of Sarkis. That night, he wished desperately for Sarkis and Mukadas to visit him, but he dreamed no dreams. He woke up crying, "Oh, my beloved daughter!" But then the goose came up to him and pushed at him with its beak. "What do you want?" he snapped. The goosey pointed at the jug, and Kulbak went over to look at it. And there, written in the bottom of the jug, were the following words, "I forgive you."